Welcome back to Shiny Happy Couples, How to Detoxify Your Relationship. In this lesson, we will continue exploring your relationship environment, the first section of the Mel Fox method. We'll be covering the primary reason for resentment, secondary and layered issues, and how they impact conflict resolution, and Relationship Maintenance 101. Let's find out more about the nature of resentment, the true enemy of relationships.
In an earlier lesson, we showed how resentment from unresolved issues forms an emotional barrier between you and your partner. This reduces the trust, respect, and attraction you feel for each other. Resentment from unresolved issues is the true root cause of all relationship problems. In this lesson, we dig deeper and explore what causes relationship issues in the first place, and learn the primary reason for resentment. Think about arguments and issues you've ever had with someone. You do not understand their viewpoint, and they don't understand yours. There's a communication failure. The primary cause of any unresolved issue and the reason for resentment is a failure or breakdown in communication. There are 4 ways communication can fail: lack of sufficient pertinent information, misunderstanding, false assumption, and jumping to false conclusions. The goal of interaction is to expose and rectify these communication breakdowns. Let's have a look at each one. Information that is not shared or remembered in a timely manner can often lead to conflict and cause resentment. Examples include neglecting to tell your partner that you will be home late from work, forgetting your partner's birthday, and not telling your partner that you're allergic to strawberries. There are 2 types of misunderstanding when it comes to resentment. One way we misunderstand is not hearing and reading your partner correctly, thinking they said X when they actually said Y. And of course, misinterpreting verbal emphasis or written punctuation can also create an issue. Another way we misunderstand is not knowing a word or phrase, or having different definitions of a word or phrase. You may have something totally different in mind when your partner says or writes something. This will cause resentment until you discover and rectify the misunderstanding. One of the more common causes for resentment is false assumptions. They are caused by influences such as following accepted social norms, lessons from past experiences, or just plain old laziness. We assume something to be so when in fact it isn't. Jumping to false conclusions. The basis for the communication breakdown in this case is protection. An event or series of events triggers you into protection mode or another automatic reaction. You jump over the idea of gathering additional information to arrive at a conclusion that may or may not be the correct one. You've seen this movie before and jump right to the supposed ending. This type of short-circuited response may be caused by a painful past experience or by bumping up against a limiting or presuming belief. Keep in mind that your partner does not know everything about you and what you expect from them. You may choose to let certain things slide to avoid confrontation, especially early in a relationship. Resentment is the result from these avoidances, even if you're not aware of it. As mentioned earlier, the goal of interaction is to expose and rectify these communication breakdowns. This resolves any issue and eliminates its resulting toxic resentment from your relationship. The reason for one issue may be a different earlier issue. Secondary issues exist due to the relationship from an earlier unresolved issue that adds even more resentment to the relationship. Several or more issues may need to be identified before finding the primary issue, especially if your relationship has never really been effectively detoxified before. You may have read the children's book A Fly Went By. This story is of a little boy who went on a journey of discovery. It started when he asked a fly why it was flying so fast. The fly said a frog was chasing it. Now at this point, the boy could have said, "Okay, thanks, just curious," plopped back down in the rowboat and looked at the sky some more. Perhaps he already knew that frogs chasing flies isn't that unusual and assumed that was the end of the story. Thank goodness he didn't, because that would have made for a rather short and boring book. No, instead he asked the frog why it was chasing the fly. The frog said it wasn't chasing the fly. The frog said a cat was chasing it. Again, the boy could have stopped there, since he knew cats chase frogs sometimes, but he didn't. Once again, he didn't assume. In fact, the boy proceeded to spend the rest of the day asking chasers why they chased, and being told by the chasers that they were being chased themselves. Just like in this story, any series of unresolved issues continue until the primary issue's root cause is exposed and eliminated through effective conflict resolution. Until then, the resulting resentment will continue to poison your relationship. If you stop the conflict resolution process before you really understand and accept the root reason for the issue, it will grow back, just like a weed. Think about the idea of working on your relationship, or that relationships take work. That makes it sound like maintaining your relationship is a dreaded thing, right? Or worse yet, thinking that any time a couple has to work on their relationship, it must be in trouble, something to be avoided, or something to be ashamed of. But let's look at it in a different way. Would you consider taking care of your child or pet or a houseplant as work? When you care about something, you naturally do things necessary to take care of it. Why should it be any different with the relationship you have with your partner? You don't get a houseplant and then ignore it and expect it to survive. That's silly. When you take on the responsibility of a plant, you form a relationship with it that needs to be nurtured and maintained. Part of this nurturing is providing water and light. If you do not sufficiently provide these things, the relationship you have with the plant will grow weak until it ends. This same nurturing is required in the relationship you have with your partner. If regular maintenance of your relationship is not sufficiently provided, it will become weaker and weaker from the toxic resentment until you or your partner leave the relationship. Imagine what would happen if you didn't clean up after your house pet. Imagine what would happen to your garden if you didn't weed it. Issues are resolved and relationships detoxified with effective interaction as taught in this course. Once you and your partner understand and accept the real reason for any issue, its resulting resentment is eliminated. Every time this happens, there will be a spontaneous feeling of relief by both you and your partner, and of course a corresponding increase in respect, trust, and attraction you feel for one another. In this lesson, we discussed how a primary issue is caused by a failure or breakdown in communication. Primary issues are resolved by identifying and rectifying this breakdown to the satisfaction of both partners. Secondary issues are caused by the resentment from an unresolved primary issue and other secondary issues. Resentment from any series of unresolved issues continues until the primary issue's root cause is exposed and eliminated through effective conflict resolution.
Maintaining your relationships with regular interaction should be considered as normal and natural as cleaning up after your pet or weeding a garden. This course will give you the tools you need to not only control the weeds in your relationship garden, it will show you how to pull them up by the roots. Well, that's all for this lesson. Stay tuned for more of Environment, the rule book of conflict resolution. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.